Okay, y'all. I wanted to avoid talking about this because I'm tired of talking about it. I'm tired of talking and writing about black people being killed by police. I mean, seriously, guys. I am tired of it. This is not my idea of a good time. I have a birthday coming up, and I'd rather be playing video games than dissecting the hypothetical scenarios of my improbable demise at the hands of police, which, judging by the headlines, look a little bit more likely by the day. What I'm saying is the story of Botham Jean and his killing by Amber Geiger of the Dallas Police Department. That story's got me shook. Like Botham Jean, I'm known in my community as a Christian, and specifically as a worship leader. Like Jean, I'm somewhat larger and a little more physically imposing, though not nearly in as good a shape as he was in at the time of his death. Like Botham Jean, I live in a place that could be described as a fairly exclusive suburban apartment complex made possible because of the work that I do among a suburban locale. And, you know, this is a place where, even though there's a modicum of diversity, most of the seats of power are still filled by white people. And also, like Dallas, the police department of my home city of Portland is also helmed by a black woman, which might give off a more progressive impression than what is warranted. Anyway, the shooting, as tragic as it is not the thing that completely burns me up. And that fact, by itself, is all kinds of effed up, because that morally reprehensible, socially aberrant act of unnecessary, lethal, state-sanctioned violence should make me furious. I should be marching in the streets right now. I should be dropping F-bombs in my sermon and stopping traffic on the highway and interrupting dinners of whoever is complicit in this nonsense in order to get through to people that this kind of thing is not okay, and yet it still keeps happening. Now, what really burns me up is this. See, there's a pattern that tends to happen after every high-profile police shooting. Police use the news media to advance a narrative that is favorable to their officers' version of events. It's as insidious as it is predictable, which is why I was not surprised to find out that police are saying that they found evidence of marijuana inside Botham Jean's apartment. Now, it's taken me a while to realize that this is their strategy, but if you pay attention, you'll definitely see it. Like, it happened with Trayvon, it happened with Michael Brown, it happened with Eric Garner, and Tamir Rice, and Philando Castile, and now most recently with Botham Jean. And it'll happen again if we let it. See, here's the thing. Police who want to protect their own, they want us to argue about whether or not there was marijuana in his apartment. Because if we get hung up on that, then it obscures their larger goal. And I want to be clear, I'm not saying the police planted that evidence, though it wouldn't surprise me to find out later that they did. But what I am saying is that oftentimes forensic evidence like that, even if it's not outright falsified, it can be used in a less than honest way in order to paint a narrative. And that narrative is the point. It's not the individual piece of evidence. So, you know, the article in the WFAA story out of Dallas mentions that there was less than an ounce of marijuana found in his apartment, along with several other items, include 2 RFID keys, a lunchbox, a computer, and a metal marijuana grinder. And what I want to know is, how do they know it's a grinder specifically for marijuana? Is it possible that grinder is used to grind herbs and spices for cooking, maybe? I don't know. I mean, it's not my grinder. I'm not an expert on grinders. But it seems to me that it's advantageous for police to call it a marijuana grinder instead of just a piece of grinding apparatus. And that really gets to the heart of the issue as I see it. You know, in the accompanying video in that news story, one of the attorneys for the Jean family implied that it's not a coincidence that police released this information about the potential marijuana finding on the same day that the community gathered to remember and to celebrate Botham Jean's life. because such a public spectacle of remembrance and mourning contradicts the unstated but implied narrative that this black man must have done something to get himself killed. Over and over again in cases like this, police grasp at whatever details they can find in order to cast the victim in a criminal light in order to justify the unjustifiable. So, I'm putting it out there right now. God forbid, if anything were to happen to me, if I ever find myself in a situation where a police officer feels the need to take my life because they feel threatened, I want everyone who knows me and everyone who loves me to A, remember who I am, what I stand for, how I live, and B, refuse to let police use any ambiguity surrounding the details of my life to change the narrative in order to somehow justify my death. Because whether or not I'm walking down the sidewalk trying to get home like Trayvon, or I'm sitting in my car like Philando, or I'm minding my own business in my own home like Botham Jean, no character flaw on my part should justify the unjust taking of my life through lethal force. And they'll be damned if they succeed in convincing people otherwise. By the way, I was about to say I'll be damned, except I'm a Christian and I know where I'm going to go when I die. So for the record, let me state this. I don't hate cops. Even though I write a lot of words and I say a lot of words about police brutality and racial justice, and I wrote a piece, last year about why conservatives should embrace Colin Kaepernick, I don't hate police. I have an uncle who was a police officer. I've gone to church with 3 different people who have had significant careers in the local Portland Police Department. Not only that, I spent a year working for the city of Portland as a 911 dispatcher and call taker. So I've gotten a sort of a bird's eye view of what policing looks like on a day-to-day basis. I have a tremendous amount of respect for the work that officers do to keep our communities as safe as possible. I just think that their hypervigilance takes a toll. And over time, too many of those officers forget their ideals of wanting to help people in the first place, which is why most of them probably started. And then once they forget that, they also sort of develop this implicit bias, and that intends to infect all people with criminal stereotypes about black people, including me. It affects me. Anyway, what I'm saying is I don't hate police. And also, I don't do drugs or drink. I do occasionally go to concerts where other people might be doing drugs or drinking, but I don't. Actually, honestly, that's only happened once and may never happen again unless Robert Randolph and the Family Band come back into town. Please, come back into town. We loved you guys. It was awesome. Yeah, so if police raid my apartment, yeah, there's going to be liquor in it because my wife drinks, okay? She's German. It's a part of her heritage, and it's part of the culture of my friends. But I don't. You can literally ask any of my friends. You will see pictures of me in bars occasionally, but trust me, if it looks like a wine cooler or some kind of fruity cocktail, it's just fruity sugar water. I promise you. I'm too cheap to drink. Alcohol is expensive. What else do I need to cover? I'm a rapper, but I've never advocated violence. Even in the rap song that I wrote, specifically disavowing President Trump.
We are the resistance. I'm with that tribe of Christians, trying to tell anyone who's listening that's ignorance is not a religion.
I never once said anything that can be construed as violent or dangerous, unless you consider the truth to be dangerous. If you ever hear me yelling, "Do you want a revolution?" I'm quoting Kirk Franklin. All right, that's his song. I didn't even write that song. It still bumps though. Speaking of danger, you're never going to find a gun in my car. If police ever recover a gun from my car, it either belonged to someone else who took my car without permission, or they planted it. If you ever hear me talking about guns, it's probably only video game guns. And even then, it's probably only guns from Halo. I don't even play Call of Duty anymore because I find that their guns are too realistic. I've never been to a firing range. I've never owned a gun. I've never even held one. The closest I came to holding a gun was in 7th grade when I brought a plastic toy gun to school, and the assistant principal, Mr. Brannon, confiscated it from me because he knew then, what I didn't, that even in 1988, that thing could get me killed, even though it was a $3 toy from Woolworths. Yeah, not Walgreens, Woolworths. I'm old is what I'm saying. Here are a few more things you might need to know about me. If you see me lean my head back and holler and clap my hands repeatedly, this is not an attempt to intimidate anyone, nor is it any kind of tribal incantation. It's laughing, okay? I like to laugh, and this is how I do it. If you see me flailing my arms around while I laugh, I'm not reaching for a gun. I'm probably grabbing for my phone. Speaking of which, if you see me walking down the sidewalk and it appears like my head is down and I'm behaving in a furtive manner, I'm doing something that many Americans do. I'm doing something on my phone. What am I doing? Doesn't matter. None of your business. If you see me walking through a parking lot and it seems like I'm walking down several aisles of cars, I'm not casing the lot looking for something to steal. I'm trying to remember where I parked my damn car because I'm in my mid-40s and I'm kind of scatterbrained and I forget sometimes. If you see me wearing a lot of red and black, and I've got an angry scowl on my face, those are not gang colors, and I'm not about to engage in violence, okay? You see the Pinwheel logo? That's because I'm a Trailblazers fan, and I am pissed off because, the Blazers are not as good as the other teams in the Western Conference. And also, if you see me in a conversation ranting about justice and combating racism and redistributing wealth, it's not because I'm an activist who's about to stage a protest. It's because, in addition to being a rapper, I also work as a pastor. And all that stuff is in the Bible. But most importantly, none of those things should matter. None of those things should be a reason why I should live or die. Respectability politics offers the lie that people who are respectable should be insulated from police violence, and that the only people who die are people who somehow deserved it. Well, Amber Geiger just proved that to be a lie. So if the police somehow find a reason to kill me, don't let them change the narrative of my death. I'm Jelani Greenidge.